origins of madness. One might pause to wonder, where did all this madness truly begin? Was it from the infinite source, creating the anti-creator, an entity born to balance the immense power of the creator gods, yet destined to threaten the very cosmos itself? Or perhaps, was it when this same anti-creator turned rogue, its dark rampage obliterating entire worlds within the majestic universe of Alkebulan? Could the source, in its infinite wisdom and power, have foreseen these catastrophic events? Was this chaos part of its grand design, or an oversight in the celestial blueprint of existence itself? Some argue it truly started the moment the Enforcer sealed the anti-creator away, sacrificing himself in the process, his divine essence scattering across realms, leaving the cosmos vulnerable and unbalanced. Others point to a simpler origin. Perhaps all this chaos truly began from the ambitions and wrath of a single god named Mbutumba, whose dark desires gave birth to Madinga, a god who would later rise and reshape the fate of Alkebulan through fire and blood. Or was it Madinga himself, his actions against the elder gods, his eventual ascension, and his transcendence beyond the boundaries of Alkebulan, that truly set the wheels of destiny into irreversible motion? While all these pivotal moments played undeniable roles, the true turning point, the single encounter from which there would be no return, occurred quietly, not in grand halls or cataclysmic battles, but within the lively, infamous celestial bar known as Zalunda. This was during the days before Amadioha's exile, when he was young, fearless, and dangerously powerful, a time when he was consumed by battle lust, challenging any who dared to question his supremacy and terrorizing the god realm with his raw, unfiltered might. His very presence made even the elder gods wary, echoing a fear not felt since the dark days of Madinga. It was during this volatile era that another figure emerged, not yet central, but significant in the grand tapestry of events. A lower-tier deity, whose name would later become synonymous with cunning and deceit, moved silently among the gods. He wasn't prominent yet. His reputation was merely whispers and intrigue, slowly climbing through the celestial ranks. No one could yet see how crucial a role he would play in Alkebulan's unfolding saga. Yet, among all the celestial beings whose paths were destined to intersect, one stood distinct in significance: Udo, the son of Madinga. Born from legends, yet burdened by expectations, his fate was intertwined with the very fabric of Alkebulan's future. His life, unknown to many, carried secrets capable of shaking the entire celestial realm. If any entity from the future had seen the approaching catastrophe, had glimpsed the devastation awaiting Alkebulan, they would have done everything in their power to prevent these three beings from ever crossing paths: Amadioha, Udo, and the quietly rising deity soon to be known as the Trickster. Indeed, the threads of destiny tightened, pulling all three inexorably toward that fateful encounter at Zalunda. Each step they took, unknowingly drawing them closer, was a step toward the chaos, betrayal, and war that awaited Alkebulan. Yet, as fate would have it, the dominoes began to fall the night Amadioha casually obliterated a god who dared challenge his supremacy, a display so devastating it became the whispered talk of every divine gathering. Seeking respite after that brutal encounter, Amadioha made his way toward the renowned establishment called Zalunda. It was here, amidst the constant flow of celestial wine, the clashing of cups, and the murmured tales of glory and loss, that Amadioha unknowingly moved closer to a destiny that would forever alter his path and the paths of all who crossed it. But before we approach this defining moment, we must step back a little to understand Udo, the young god who found himself crushed beneath the weight of legacy, expectation, and hidden truths. To understand how his path, too, led him inevitably towards Zalunda, where the currents of fate gathered silently, awaiting collision. Here the stage is set. The pieces slowly align. Unbeknownst to each other, Amadioha and Udo would soon find themselves sharing more than just a space. They would share the burden of Alkebulan's future. And quietly, unnoticed, yet equally inevitable, the deity destined for the shadows, the Trickster, also moved towards Zalunda, where paths and destinies were destined to intertwine. Thus begins our journey into the heart of chaos, a tale of power, legacy, fate, and choices whose echoes would resonate throughout eternity. A city born from ashes. In the days that followed the historic peace treaty between the rebel forces and the elder gods, a new chapter began for Alkebulan. After the war, the surviving rebels, gods who had once been united under Madinga's cause, faced the overwhelming task of rebuilding. The land that had known only the devastation of conflict now yearned for rebirth, and it fell to Midis and Chakara to lead these weary souls into a new era. Although powerful enough to establish their own personal realms, Midis and Chakara chose instead the responsibility of leadership over solitude. The rebels were more than warriors. They were a family forged through battles and losses. They were lost souls, ships adrift without their shepherd, Madinga. Understanding the weight of this responsibility, Midis had stood amidst the scattered remnants of war and made his intentions clear. "This isn't merely about survival," he declared, standing among his battered followers. "We will build something lasting here, a beacon of hope, a testament to the sacrifices we've made. A place where all gods, whether born from high blood or humble origins, can live freely." Chakara stood by his side, her voice echoing firmly. "Madinga's legacy must endure, not just in our memories, but in stone, in hope, and in the hearts of those who will come after us." Thus, from the ashes of rebellion, they erected a city unlike any seen in the celestial realms. Streets were paved with shimmering stones, structures carved meticulously from divine marble and celestial crystals. Towers rose skyward, catching the eternal glow of Alkebulan's suns, their spires symbols of newfound freedom. Gardens flourished, lush with life and magic, reflecting the peace and prosperity Madinga had dreamed of but had never lived to see. It was into this flourishing city that Amara, the woman who had captured Madinga's heart, found sanctuary. She was no ordinary goddess. Her heritage was as intricate and mysterious as the forests her kin protected. Half guardian spirit, half goddess, her lineage was deeply connected to the sacred forests of the Igbo and Edo peoples of southeastern West Alkebulan. Forests whose spirits whispered ancient secrets and guarded timeless wisdom. Amara's union with Madinga had been kept hidden, a secret safeguarded fiercely by Midis and Chakara. They knew that revealing her identity or the unborn child's heritage could put both mother and child in grave danger. Thus, under their watchful eyes and careful guidance, Amara brought forth her son into a world that had only recently tasted peace. A world still delicate, vulnerable, and unsteady. Udo, the newborn child whose arrival symbolized harmony and the end of the century-long rebellion, came into existence precisely on the day the treaty with the elder gods became effective. It was a day marked by new hope and quiet uncertainty, a day that inspired Amara to name her child Udo, meaning peace. To all who looked upon the infant god, Udo embodied the hard-earned harmony that now filled Alkebulan's skies. Yet, from his very first breath, Udo's life carried hidden burdens. Born with immense latent powers inherited from his father Madinga, he was a potential threat, an entity whose very existence could destabilize the fragile peace. Thus his grandfather from Amara's lineage, renowned throughout Alkebulan as the greatest sealer and guardian of ancient magic, performed an unprecedented ritual. Before Udo even entered the world, his celestial powers were sealed away, hidden deeply behind an invisible lock forged from primal forces. Amara understood this necessity, yet the mother's heart ached deeply. "Will he ever truly be safe?" she once asked Midis, holding her child close beneath the gentle twilight. Midis, his eyes heavy with the weight of responsibility, spoke gently but firmly. "Safety is an illusion, Amara. What we must provide him is strength. Not merely strength of power, but strength of character, so when the day comes for him to face his legacy, he will not falter." Chakra, standing protectively at Amara's side, placed a comforting hand on the mother's shoulder. "We will watch over him, this child of peace. For as long as we draw breath, Udo will never face the darkness alone." And so, under the watchful eyes of Midis, Chakara, and Amara, Udo grew up as an ordinary god in extraordinary circumstances. He was kept distant from the struggles that had shaped Alkebulan, allowed to live a normal, joyful life among other young gods who were unaware of his true lineage. Yet whispers followed him, the soft murmurs of expectation, hopes and unfulfilled destinies that gradually shaped his consciousness. As years passed, stories of his father Madinga began to seep into Udo's reality. The truth came to him in fragments, tales of heroism, war, sacrifice and loss, told by those who had known and fought beside his father. Soon, the young god found himself standing at a crossroads of identity. He was 19, and the weight of his heritage suddenly pressed upon him, inescapable, suffocating, relentless. Udo grappled with questions that had no easy answers. "Must I walk my father's path?" he asked Chakara in anguish one evening, his heart heavy with confusion. "Must my life be spent in shadow of his deeds?" Chakara held his gaze with gentle compassion. "Your path is yours alone, Udo. Your father would never have wanted you bound by his legacy. But know this, whatever you choose, you will never walk alone." Yet, despite her comforting words, the pressures grew unbearable. Followers of Madinga's legacy looked to Udo, their eyes filled with hope and expectation. He was the son of their greatest hero, their leader reborn in young form, and they hoped he would rise to reclaim his father's legacy. The burden became overwhelming. Seeking solace from the suffocating weight of expectation, Udo eventually found himself drawn toward Zalunda, a place known throughout the celestial realm as a refuge for weary warriors, renegades, and seekers of clarity. It was here, amidst laughter, whispers, music, and the soothing balm of celestial wine, that Udo sought answers, or perhaps simply escape. Yet Udo could not know that his decision to enter Zalunda placed him irrevocably on a collision course with destiny. Unbeknownst to him, another powerful deity, Amadioha, the battle-driven storm god whose mere name inspired awe and fear, had also stepped into Zalunda's lively atmosphere. In this moment, the currents of fate silently gathered strength, drawing these two figures ever closer. And unknown to both, the deity destined for shadows, the mysterious one known as the Trickster, also approached Zalunda, his presence subtle yet destined to tip the scales further into uncertainty and chaos. For now, they moved unaware of each other, their paths not yet intertwined. But soon, Zalunda would become the nexus of their destiny, the heart of a future conflict whose ripples would forever alter the celestial realm of Alkebulan. Threads of fate. Within the lively interior of Zalunda, laughter resonated from every corner, weaving itself seamlessly into the music that flowed gently through the celestial air. The scent of rare divine wine mingled with the rich aroma of exotic herbs, creating an atmosphere thick with the promise of comfort, camaraderie, and forgotten worries. Zalunda was more than a tavern. It was a sanctuary for gods weary from the burden of divine responsibilities, an oasis hidden from the relentless pressures of their celestial duties. At a secluded corner of the bar, Udo sat quietly, nursing a golden cup filled with honeyed wine. The liquid glowed faintly, its delicate sweetness a soothing balm to his troubled mind. Yet, as he sipped, the wine failed to drown out the whispers echoing persistently in his thoughts. Voices of expectation, echoes of his father's legacy, and the heavy, unspoken duty he had been born into. "Peace," Udo murmured softly, gazing thoughtfully into the shimmering liquid. "I was named Peace, yet peace is exactly what I lack most." As he pondered, fragments of overheard conversations reached him from the tables around. Tales of Amadioha, his recent conquests, his fearless battles, his unapologetic defiance of the elder gods, filled the tavern like legends unfolding in real time. The very mention of the thunder god sent ripples of excitement and awe through Zalunda's patrons. Across the vast tavern floor, in a space reserved solely for the most revered warriors, Amadioha himself lounged with casual authority. He seemed utterly at ease, sprawled comfortably, yet with an unmistakable aura of restrained power. His long white hair cascaded like silver lightning, framing eyes that crackled with subtle energy. The aura surrounding him was intense, both alluring and intimidating. Those brave enough approached him with wary respect, while others simply whispered reverently from afar. Amadioha's laugh echoed heartily, rich and vibrant as thunder, ringing through Zalunda whenever he chose to speak. "Another drink," he called to the serving spirits, raising his cup high in celebration. "Tonight we celebrate victory, mine of course, but a victory for all who dare defy the timid elders who think to rule us." Cheers erupted, echoing his sentiment. He smiled arrogantly, yet there was a depth beneath his bravado, a lingering hunger for battles still unfought, a restless fire smouldering quietly within. He knew the elder gods watched him, wary and fearful, and their anxiety pleased him immensely. Yet, even as he celebrated among admirers, a strange feeling stirred within him, an unexplainable restlessness. It tugged gently at his senses, drawing his attention briefly toward the quiet corner where Udo sat, unnoticed and introspective. Amadioha's gaze paused momentarily on the younger god, a faint curiosity flickering in his lightning-filled eyes, before returning swiftly to his revelry. Unbeknownst to either god, a third presence quietly entered Zalunda, slipping in unnoticed among the lively crowd. Cloaked in shadows, yet carrying a distinct aura of intrigue and subtle menace, he observed quietly from the fringes of the tavern. Though his true identity remained unknown to most, whispers trailed after him, murmurs of his cunning, his ambition, and his mysterious ascent through the lower tiers of the godly hierarchy. He was the deity whose path would soon collide with the others, the trickster, as yet unnamed, destined to become a harbinger of turmoil. His sharp yellow eyes swept methodically across the crowd, assessing, calculating, patiently biding his time. "Interesting," he whispered to himself, his voice soft, yet filled with quiet anticipation. "It seems fate has brought us together tonight. The storm, the peace, and the trickster, such a curious combination indeed." As the trickster silently watched from the shadows, Udo remained consumed by his thoughts, oblivious to the subtle threads of destiny drawing tightly around him. His mind wrestled with questions of identity, burden, and purpose. Should he embrace the role others wished to impose upon him, or cast aside the heavy mantle of his father's legacy? Lost in thought, Udo barely noticed the serving spirit approach his table gently, her voice filled with kindness. "Another drink, young god?" He lifted weary eyes toward her and smiled faintly. Yes, please. Something strong enough to drown the voices. She nodded with understanding, departing swiftly to fulfill his request. In that quiet moment, as Udo waited, his gaze drifted once more across the lively tavern. For just an instant, his eyes passed over Amadioha, lingering briefly, sensing something powerful, something almost magnetic about the thunder god's confident aura. Yet he turned away quickly, unaware of the significance of this brief, subtle interaction. Likewise, Amadioha glanced again toward Udo, drawn by curiosity, but dismissed it with a shrug, returning quickly to his merrymaking. Across the room, the trickster watched it all, a silent observer, an invisible orchestrator aware of secrets and connections yet unseen by others. He felt the weight of destiny settling into place, saw clearly the tangled threads that bound the three of them in ways none could yet comprehend. Thus, in Zalunda, beneath the glow of celestial lamps, amidst laughter, drink and whispered tales, the threads of destiny quietly intertwined. Three distinct souls, each carrying burdens and ambitions, moved unknowingly toward a fateful meeting, one that would soon reshape Alkebulan itself. For now, though, the night remained young, the future obscured by the comforting haze of celebration. Yet beyond this night, beyond the carefree smiles and fleeting happiness, a shadow awaited, one that would soon fall upon them all. In the shadows of Zalunda, unseen and unnoticed, the trickster silently observes, memories of a dark and tumultuous past swirling within him. To truly grasp the catastrophe looming over Alkebulan, one must first uncover the secret origins of this deity of cunning. Who is this god lurking in darkness, and what painful legacy drove him to this fateful encounter?